Hey guys, welcome to the 2 a.m. pipe on the patio. Woke up this morning and got the news that one of my San Diego music buddies had passed away. One of my music heroes, Cowie, probably the best blues guitarist I ever heard in San Diego. He was the best top tier blues guitarist in San Diego, and he could play like anybody. He could play like Clapton when he was with John Mayall's Blues Breakers. He could play like Mike Bloomfield. Man, he could play like Mike Bloomfield. Oh man, he could. When he was like Bloomfield, when he was with Paul Butterfield, man, he had him down. He could play like Freddie King. He had Freddie down. When he played like himself, he had his own style, and he was, God, he was just a top tier guitar player, man. And I remember the first few times I heard him play, I was just astonished at how good he was. He was playing with King Biscuit, with Ken Schottmeyer's band, and I remember just being blown away by how good he was. The tone he could get on his guitar. He played a Les Paul. And oh man, he just got this amazing tone, and he could just, it was just a mind-boggling tone he could get out of that guitar. And I don't remember the amp. I think he was using an old deluxe reverb, if I remember correctly. But he would use different amps every once in a while. He'd use combinations of amps. He had a Gibson Firebird that he would use along with a Tweed Deluxe. I think he had Tweed Deluxe and a Gibson Firebird together. He would use both of them. He would just get this killer tone, man. It was just amazing. But he or Gibson Thunderbird, maybe the amp was. Gibson Thunderbird, I think it was called. Anyway, it's a cool old amp. But Paul was just an amazing guitar player. Nice guy. I'd been introduced to him several times and hit their gigs by Ken Schottmeyer, but Paul was usually pretty tattered at their gigs. When I was playing, I went to an after hours jam one time, and Paul was there. Paul and Ken Schottmeyer were both there, and we were jamming, and After about an hour of jamming, Paul came to me and he says, "What's your name?" And I said, "Johnny Mannion." And he said, "Man, there is nobody in San Diego that plays like you." He goes, "You are the real deal." He goes, "There's nobody in San Diego that plays like you." He goes, "I've never heard anybody play like you." And that was just such a encouragement to me to hear Paul say that about me. And I was just a young player at that time. I'd been playing with Tomcat for maybe a year or two. And to have somebody that I considered the guy in San Diego say that to me was such an encouragement. And because at the Jam I was able to do what I do. With Tomcat I was kind of Tom's backup guy, and but at the Jams I was able to, they'd let me shine, so to speak. You get your time to shine at the Jams. And he was so encouraging to me, and every time that after that I would get to share the stage with him, when I'd go see King Biscuit, they would call me up to play, and he would always just be so encouraging to me, and so kind, and he would always tell me encouraging things after we were done playing. He'd always have these encouragement that he would say to me about my playing, and it was always just an amazing thing to get to play, not only with Ken Shopmeyer, but to have Paul Cowie come up and say, these encouraging things to me after I had played with him. And I was always so intimidated playing with that band, because those guys were the top tier. They were the best of the best. Everybody in that band, they were the cream of the crop of San Diego. We were the cream of the crop of California. And Paul always was encouraging, and just such a good player. Just amazing. Another 6-stringer gone. I will miss him. I don't know what he's been doing the last few years. He moved up to Oregon, and I had lost contact, and I don't know if he's even been playing or what up there, but he was a phenomenon on the guitar. Truly a blues genius, and I will forever be thankful that I knew him, what I got to see him and hear him many times. And if I wasn't playing, I was listening to King Biscuit. I was in the club where they were playing, listening to those guys. And just to see Ken Shopmeyer and Paul Cowie in that band, and Paul was Paul was a trip. He was I got so many stories. I probably shouldn't say them, but I got some crazy stories about Paul. But Probably better left unsaid. But he was, there were times when he could barely stand, but man, he could play that guitar. And you'd just be watching him and you'd think the guy can barely stand up and he's just screaming on that guitar, and it was just amazing. He was truly mind-boggling. It was like he didn't even have to think about it. It just flowed through him. And funny. Man, he was funny. The stories are coming up, and I just better off not saying them. But he was an amazing player, funny guy. He was funny, just funny guy, funny guy. Rest in peace, Paul. Man, I just thank you for all your encouragement to me. You have no idea how much you touched my life, and you were an important figure in my life, and I wish I could have told you that in person, my friend. And thank you. Rest in peace.